Now that we have the trunk working, let's get the top on there, but let's just go with a single piece. So what I mean by that is that we have that asset here, the static mesh, the foliage, this piece here. And for this tutorial, we're just going to stick with this because using a single one that is controllable the way I did takes a lot more work, and it takes some transform matrix manipulation stuff. I could do that in another tutorial for sort of more of an advanced. But how do we put this on top? Well, first off, this is going to start getting really messy if we don't do a little bit of management. So I'm going to grab all this. I'm just going to move it up, make sure that piece is up, and I've got all of it. And then I'm going to press C. And what it'll do is it'll put this comment around it. And I'm just going to call this setup. And you could even go and give it a color if you wanted. So colorize it. This piece here and everything contained in here is going to handle the trunk. So I'm going to hit C and call this trunk. And again, making sure this stuff is clean and neat. Is going to save you later on when you're trying to solve bugs, or when you're trying to add to it. You'll be able to see what sections are which. So the next section down here is going to handle the leaves. So we're going to need another instance static mesh. Now we could just go the static mesh because there's only one of them. But we're going to go with an instance static mesh just to keep it exactly the same. So we're looking for static mesh again. There's the instance static mesh, and it's going to be instance static mesh underscore leaves. And that needs to get set to our instance static mesh. So we're going to be looking for the palm leaves, and that is that one. So that's all of them. And we'll drag that out. We're going to need that for sure to be able to create them. And we only need one of them. We don't need a loop through in this case. So all we need to do is create one. And we need the add instance. So I'm just going to drag out of leaves and say add instance. And then we'll be able to fire that off and get it to run that. Now, of course, we're going to get that error again because of the location and whatnot. And so in this case, to make this work, we're just going to need one. And what is that one? Well, we're going to need these two again and the tangent, but we're only going to need to have the distance set to a value of 1. So the end of the spline, okay? Now, distance, we'd have to know then the length of the spline. So we could use the length of the spline to get that. As just a sort of a learning thing, we can also use a get location at time. And time, when you're talking about a spline, is a value from 0 to 1. 0 being the start, 1 being the end. Or we could, of course, use that local variable down here, which is the length of the spline, to get the distance. But let's use the time one just so you can see what I mean. We're going to pull out from the path again. So we're going to say get location at time. And so just pull that over here and get the location at time. What's the time? It's going to be 1. So it's going to be the end of it. Again, we could use the distance and use the length value. It would get us the same thing. Now that's the location. Okay, and we're going to need the tangent as well. So get tangent at time, and same thing. That's going to be a value of 1 again. And I'm going to open up the transform, split the struct pin so that it actually has the different values. We're going to grab that, and then we're going to take the get tangent at time. And if you remember, we had to use the make rot from Z. I'll just copy that down, okay? And that'll take that vector value and turn it into a rotation using the Z vector pointing along it. I'm just going to hit save again, compile. And now we should have the that piece on there, and you can see it is now even angling itself with it. So there you go. So, and you can see it spin around, and that's because we're only using one of the axes. We could actually split it and use the Z and Y, or Z and X, for instance, and it wouldn't do that pop. It would stay the right way up usually. Not in all cases, but It's pretty good. Now we might want to be able to control the scale on there, the rotation on there. The rotation, again, can actually be quite a problem to be able to handle that. So maybe at a later time. But what about a scale value, overall scale? So down in the variables, again, I'm going to say just leaf scale. And that's going to be a float. It's going to be visible. Going to get compiled. Going to set it as a value of 1. Okay. And I'm just going to drag that out. And we're going to drop it directly into the scale. It's going to create a conversion node for us from a single float value to a vector XYZ value that are all floats. Just going to save again, compile, and there it is. And we should be able to then select it, and we have our leaf scale. And then we can scale it up and down to the size we're looking for. So that's actually getting us a really good example of a tree being created. Now, if you wanted to save yourself even more time, you could have the coconuts added to the leaves, just sort of, tucked in there, and you wouldn't have to add them onto it. But doing the coconuts is exactly the same thing as this part here. So I'm going to grab all that, just call this leaves. And we'll give it a color so it all looks nice and pretty. I just go around the rainbow a bit, and you can start seeing where it looks pretty clean to be able to look at this. So dealing with the coconuts is exactly the same thing as it is here. And if we want to get into having, multiple leaves and being able to add them, that's kind of a little further, issue to get that to work. Now, you could also add an automatic little pile of dirt at the bottom. It's the exact opposite as the leaves. It's going to be starting at 0 along the path. Okay, so it sticks onto the bottom. And, that'll work really nicely, be able to drag out and be able to create different trees. Now, what you just need to do is export out of Max a bunch of separate palm leaf sections. So that can be done easily. With that picked, I've got my array, and we could easily just take the array with the phyllotaxis, change up the count so there's more or less, change up the randomness, the rotation of them, with the array modifier here, and kick out a few different versions of it.